Welcome to the JavaScript course. It helps you learn the JavaScript programming language quickly and effectively. Let's continue the course. JavaScript is a dynamic computer programming language. It is lightweight and most commonly used as a part of web pages, whose implementations allow client-side script to interact with the user and make dynamic pages. It is an interpreted programming language with object-oriented capabilities. In 1995, JavaScript was created by a Netscape developer named Brendan Eich. Netscape decided to change LiveScript to JavaScript to leverage Java's fame, which was popular. Hence, two different JavaScript versions were in the market: JavaScript in Netscape Navigator, JScript in Internet Explorer. A standard for defining a new scripting language named ECMAScript. Less server interaction. You can validate user input before sending the page off to the server. This saves server traffic, which means less load on your server. Immediate feedback to the visitors. They don't have to wait for a page reload to see if they have forgotten to enter something. Increased interactivity. You can create interfaces that react when the user hovers over them with a mouse or activates them via the keyboard. Richer interfaces. You can use JavaScript to include such items as drag and drop components and sliders to give a rich interface to your site visitors. Client-side security. These practices may include using the source code without authentication. Browser support. The browser interprets JavaScript differently in different browsers. Thus, the code must be run on various platforms before publishing. Lack of debugging facility. Though some HTML editors support debugging, it is not as efficient as other editors like C++ editors. Single inheritance. JavaScript only supports single inheritance and not multiple inheritance. Microsoft Front Page. Microsoft has developed a popular HTML editor called Front Page. Front Page also provides web developers with a number of JavaScript tools to assist in the creation of interactive websites. Macromedia Dreamweaver MX. Macromedia Dreamweaver MX is a very popular HTML and JavaScript editor in the professional web development crowd. It provides several handy pre-built JavaScript components, integrates well with databases. Macromedia Homesite 5. Homesite 5 is a well-liked HTML and JavaScript editor from Macromedia that can be used to manage personal websites effectively. JavaScript code editors and how to install the Visual Studio Code for coding JavaScript. Popular JavaScript code editors. To edit JavaScript source code, you need a plain text editor such as Notepad on Windows. However, to simplify and speed up typing of JavaScript code, you need a JavaScript code editor. The following are some popular JavaScript code editors: Visual Studio Code, Atom, Notepad++, Vim, GNU/MCAs. Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is a free and open-source code editor developed by Microsoft. Visual Studio Code is often called Versus Code. Versus Code includes built-in support for JavaScript, which includes IntelliSense, debugging, formatting, code navigation, refactoring, and many other advanced language features. Installing Visual Studio Code Windows. To install the Versus Code on Windows, you follow these steps. First, execute the installer from the downloaded file. Then, open the Visual Studio Code. Note that the installer will add the Visual Studio Code to your %path%. It will allow you to type the command code to launch the Versus Code on that folder. To insert JavaScript into an HTML page, you use the script tag element. There are two ways to use the script tag element in an HTML page. Embed JavaScript code directly into the HTML page. Reference an external JavaScript code file. Embed JavaScript code in an HTML page. Placing JavaScript code inside the script tag element directly is not recommended and should be used only for proof of concept or testing purposes. For example, include an external JavaScript file. To include a JavaScript from an external file, first, create a file whose extension is. Then, use the URL to the JavaScript source. Shows the helloworld.html file. Fundamentals of JavaScript. In this section helps you learn fundamentals of JavaScript: syntax, variable, data type, number, Boolean type, string, objects, and array. JavaScript syntax. JavaScript syntax, including whitespace, statements, identifiers, comments, expressions, and keywords. Whitespace. statements, identifiers, comments, expressions, keywords. A variable is a label that references a value like a number or string. Before using a variable, you need to declare it. Declare a variable. To declare a variable, you use the var keyword followed by the variable name as follows. Var message. Initialize a variable. Once you have declared a variable, you can initialize it with a value. To initialize a variable, you specify the variable name, followed by an equals sign, equals, and a value. Let message. Message equals hello, undefined versus undeclared variables. It's important to distinguish between undefined and undeclared variables. An undefined variable is a variable that has been declared but has not been initialized with a value. For example, console.log message. JavaScript data types. JavaScript has the primitive data types. This is the area to place your text content. It might describe the image to the right, or maybe the image supports the text. Null, undefined, Boolean, number, string, symbol, begin, and a complex data type object. JavaScript is a dynamically typed language. It means that a variable doesn't associate with a type. In other words, a variable can hold a value of different types. For example, JavaScript uses the number type to represent both integers and floating point values. Integer numbers. Integers can be represented in the following formats: octal, base 8, hexadecimal, base 16, let num equals 071, console.log num, let num equals 0 by 1a. Floating point numbers. To define a floating point literal number, you include a decimal point and at least one number after that. For example, let price equals 9.99, let tax equals 0.08, let discount equals 0.05/. The JavaScript Boolean primitive type has two literal values, true and false. The following example declares two variables and initializes their values to true and false. Let completed equals true. Let running equals false. JavaScript allows the values of other types to be cast to Boolean values. To cast a non-Boolean value to a Boolean value, you use the built-in Boolean function. For example, let error equals an error occurred. Let has error equals Boolean error. How it works. First, declare a variable error that holds the literal string an error occurred. Second, cast the error variable to a Boolean value using the Boolean function. Third, output the value of the has error variable to the console. JavaScript strings are primitive values. Also, strings are immutable. It means that if you modify a string, you will always get a new string. The original string doesn't change. To create literal strings, you use either single quotes or double escaping special characters. To escape special characters, you use the \character. For example, Windows line break, \r\n, Unix line break, \n, tab, \t, \\. Accessing characters. To access the characters in a string, you use the array-like notation with the zero-based index. The following example returns the first character of a string with the index 0. Let str equals hello. Console.log str0. In JavaScript, an object is an unordered collection of key-value pairs. Each key-value pair is called a property. The key of a property can be a string. And the value of the property can be any value, for example, a string, a number, an array, and even. JavaScript provides you with many ways to create an object. The most commonly used one is to use the object literal notations. The following example creates an empty object using the object literal notation. Let empty equals. To create an object with properties, you use the key value within the curly braces. For example, the following creates a new person object. Let person equals first name, John, last name, Doe. Accessing properties. To access a property of an object, you use one of two notations, the dot notation and array-like notation. The dot notation. The following illustrates how to use the dot notation to access a property of an object, array-like notation. The following illustrates how to access the value of an object's property via the array-like notation. Object name, property name. JavaScript has two different types of values. Primitive values. Reference values. Primitive values are atomic pieces of data, while reference values are objects that might consist of multiple values. Stack and heap memory. When you declare variables, the JavaScript engine allocates the memory for them on two memory locations, stack and heap. Static data is the data whose size is fixed at compile time. Static data includes primitive values, reference values that refer to objects. Dynamic properties. A reference value allows you to add, change, or delete properties at any time. For example, let person equals name, John, age, 25. // add the SSN property. Person.ssn equals 123456789. // Introduction to JavaScript arrays. In JavaScript, an array is an ordered list of values. Each value is called an element specified by an index. A JavaScript array has the following characteristics. First, an array can hold values of mixed types. Second, the size of an array is dynamic. Thanks for watching this video.